I want to come in this room and I want you guys to know all of me. Like I want to integrate all of that. That's why a personal brand is so powerful. You get to integrate all of it. You could actually integrate every ounce of yourself, but some stuff we like to keep sacred, obviously. But that would work for you because people want to work with people.
Welcome, everybody, to the Chris Harder Show, where we are making you unapologetic about your pursuit of success, knowing that when good people like you make good money, they can then do great things. My name is Chris Harder, and several times per week, I will bring you epic guests, solo episodes, and every single tool, trick, and skill set you need to grow your business, grow your money mindset, and to grow your wealth to levels that you have never reached before. I've ended up in a unique place in life where I've got the experience, the connections, and all of the secrets that it takes to be successful. And I'm lifting the curtain to reveal it all to you in an effort to help put you in a position of abundance so great that you can then be as generous as possible. So let's lock arms and let's get started. And we're back
with another episode of He Said, She Said.
Got your glossy tip?
I do, because winter is coming. And
you sound like Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Well, I mean, truly, for our skin, that is how it feels. So I have lived in the Midwest bulk majority of my life, and then I lived in the desert, and now I live on the West Coast, but I can still tell you that with the change of weather, my skin still tends to get dehydrated. So we can drink all the water that we want, but it definitely helps when you're drinking something that is more hydrating. We have coconut water powder in there, but not just that, we have hyaluronic acid, which helps hold the water underneath the layer of the skin. So if you've ever traveled somewhere or you've noticed in the winter, you're like, oh, I just feel like I look a little more like tired, or my skin feels like it's cracking, or my fine lines are really coming out, it's most likely because you are a bit dehydrated. It's hard to stay hydrated in the winter. So hyaluronic acid is an incredible ingredient for that. So many people just apply it topically, but let me tell you, taking it internally is next level. So you guys go to getglossy.com and use code HAPPY for 25% off.
That's getglossy, GETLOCI.com. Use coupon code HAPPY to get 25% off. And Lori's going to get mad that I'm saying this, but guess what? Here's a holiday hack. You can go use that same coupon code for any first-time signer-uppers. So you could get mom, you can get your sisters, you can get your aunts, you can get your cousins, you can get your husbands, you can get anybody you want signed up on Glossy as long as you have their email and their address, and using that coupon code HAPPY to get 25% off. So go to getglossy.com/25% off. Okay, so this is part 3 of the 3-part series where our elite level mastermind members, they're all 7- and 8-figure businesses in there mostly, where they interviewed Lori and a little bit of me in front of the room. And it went so well that we're like, we have got to make this an episode on the podcast. So here you go. This is part 3. Now, if you have not listened to part 1 or 2, after listening to this one, go a couple weeks back and listen to part 1 and then listen to part 2, because there's so much freaking awesome knowledge in these things. And big freaking announcement if you haven't heard it yet.
I am officially part of your mastermind.
She is running it side by side with me now.
I'm so excited because, when Chris and I work together, it's such a fun dynamic in the room because he has advice that I could never give. He comes from, a financial background, and he's essentially a strategist, and I'm very much a creative. So together, I feel like we not only can do the ideas, but also get you a plan. So it's going to be a super fun room, not only for singles, but for partners and pretty much anybody who really wants to take their business to the next level.
Yeah, and the room is going to be more competitive than ever to get into. So literally get your app in like yesterday if you haven't already. If you have a business that's going to earn more than $500,000 a year in 2025, then you qualify to apply. We'll jump on Zoom, we'll interview each other, see if it's a good fit. But none of that can happen if you don't get your app in. So hit pause real quick. Go to chrisharder.me/mastermind. That is chrisharder.me.me/mastermind. Get your app in and then come back to this episode because it is a good one. All right, here we go. Part 3.
Hi, Lori. Thanks for being here. It's good to see Chris's better half. If you were going back or thinking back and building the personal brand, we're in a space that's very untrusted. There's a lot of barrier in advisory work. If you were building it over, how would you do, or what would you prioritize or not do in a space? It's like sometimes I feel like I am doing religious conversion, and it's an area that people don't talk about money, just this the way American families are. And I'd like your perspective on how to build from scratch a personal brand when in the financial space, it's the corporate brand. Their trust is because it's Goldman Sachs. The trust is because it's whatever bank or brokerage.
Okay, I love this question because, believe it or not, when Chris and I got into network marketing like 15, 16 years ago, it was the most untrusted possible thing ever. People were just like, ugh, people get paid for that thing. It's like how it all started. It was why people, if your family started it, you wouldn't get invited to Christmas. So when I started that, it felt like finances. It really did. I might as well have been talking about that. And so I had that feeling around it. It's why it took me a year of somebody convincing me, even after losing 100 pounds in front of my face, and feeling amazing and outlifting me and out energying me. Like, it was one of my clients who got me onto it, who was literally out doing everything I was doing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is going on? And it took all of that convincing because I was so grossed out by it. And so for me, I had the realization, because I did have such a transformation with it, which the transformation that comes with money. There's a lot of fear around money. There's a lot of all of the things, right, comes with it. And so stories, family history, just it's in there. So I would say the thing that has always worked for me, that I didn't realize it was going to work publicly, because I was really just doing it to free myself to be able to say what I wanted to say about the industry. And that was that I go into everything and call the elephant out in the room every single time. I'm like, the bonus with you two is that they're going to trust the person. People love Dave Ramsey because he's Dave Ramsey. I don't care what he's saying. I like how he's saying it. I like that he's talking about God. I like his accent. I like that he just gives it to you straight. I like that he calls things out. And whether you agree with him or not, I like the person. And so I'm more willing to listen to what he has to say, even though I don't agree with everything that he has to say. So with you guys, you are personality central. Who in here loves their personalities? You're just the faster that the both of you can figure out how to create your dynamic alone and your dynamic alone, and then your dynamic together. And how you talk about finances together and how you talk about them alone. And calling out, maybe every start to your video, you have a little, a mini story that's just hey, finances are the thing we'd rather talk about sex with our family than finances. That's why we're here to help you, blah, 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 or something, where they're immediately kind of trusting the person and going, oh yeah, finances suck. They're hard. They're this, they're that. And they know why you guys are getting into it. But I think your superpower is going to be making it personal. So whenever you come out with something, you have to think about how to make it personal as well, whether that's just little stories or throwing in little things. You guys notice, when Chris and I are up here, whenever we're talking about something, we're probably gonna throw in a little personal story or a joke here and there all the time, allow ourselves to come out more and more, our personalities. And the more that we've done that, the more things go easy for us. The more people are attracted, because nobody wants the work life of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s anymore, where you're one person at work and you're another person at home. I want to come in this room and I want you guys to know all of me. I want to integrate all of that. That's why a personal brand is so powerful. You get to integrate all of it. You could actually integrate every ounce of yourself, but some stuff we like to keep sacred, obviously. But that would work for you because people want to work with people. They want to work with someone that they know and trust and feel comfortable with. And I know already from the brief time I got to spend with you guys recently, I was like, oh my gosh, just the level of trust and the guard that goes down with you. You just now have to learn how to put little mini pieces into everything that you're putting out there. Little mini parts of you, anecdotal stories, quirks about yourself. Share all of your fears, share what's weird, share everything that comes up around the topic that you're sharing personally. So every time you think of finances, think of what's happening to them personally. What happened to me? Let me share that. So I think that's going to be super powerful for both of you.
Here's a tangible example. You just bought a beach house. You should have a lot of content out there that I know would not conflict with the rules you have to follow from the company that restricts you. You should have a bunch of content about, hey, we just bought a beach house. Here's how we came to our decision as to how we're going to pay for it. But first, let me tell you what our options were. And so, we could finance on traditional mortgage. We could sell some of our company equity and buy it. We could pull from this investment. Here's why we did not choose the other ones. Here's why we chose the route that we went. That's great personal branding content that also would sell what you guys do. It'd make me say, oh, I want to work with them. I didn't know there's like 7 ways I could buy my house.
My wife's been in your world for many years, at your events and stuff like that. I'm going to piggyback off the branding question because it's kind of funny. I've been fighting with the branding side of things this whole year. We have a digital marketing agency. I am Mr. Anti-branding. I have nothing online, and I don't want to be online. She has everything. She wants to be a speaker. She's got her brand. Do you, based off your experience and you guys working together, do you see any sort of negative impact with your joined events, things that you do, if one of you have no personal brand versus one of you having a personal brand? So if I just step down, this isn't for me, or am I in the long term going to eventually regret that decision and be like, okay, just suck it up and start building a personal brand?
I don't necessarily think so, especially if you're like, look, I don't ever see myself this way. Do you feel like you could do you feel like you want to do that?
I don't. And what's funny is our wager for this year was me building that personal brand on my social media and all that stuff. And I honestly made it probably 3 or 4 months in, and it wasn't for me. It's not for me. And yeah, I could go the route and hire someone to start building my brand, but then it's not my brand. It's whatever I'm paying the person to do for. I don't know.
Sorry, let me ask you together. So you do the business together?
Yeah, it's our joint
Okay.
digital marketing agency, and she has the brand right now.
Okay.
She has the thousands of followers. She wants to be a speaker, so she has all that recognition for that kind of thing.
And are you a better supporting role, or are you you have a different role that you feel like you could dive into more?
I am definitely a good at supporting role.
Yeah.
I am the behind the scenes person.
Does she want you to be a brand, or where does this come from?
She likes the idea of me being the brand, but I also don't want it to be a negative thing, and that's kind of where I'm coming at.
Okay, I have an idea. What if you don't do a personal brand, but you show up as part of her brand once in a while, and they work that into the content, like how Amy's starting to work Hobie into her. Amy Porterfield's starting to work her husband into the content a little bit because it works really well. So once every 2 weeks, there'll be a reel with you in it, talking about stuff. I think that would work way better and feel way more authentic. And I think it'll boost and get what you're trying to do with your own brand. But even, I think for people who don't want a brand like that, you just start to feel it. And let me tell you, you guys know when you're building a personal brand, it's a full-time job.
Oh yeah.
It's you have to, everything you think about needs to go into it. I feel like I'm failing even now because it's so much goes into a personal brand. I think that if you guys could learn how to put you on the page that's already working, because you guys are already working together. If he wasn't a personal brand, I feel like it could even be more powerful. Our stuff does better on my page. So we're going to be doing more with him on my page, working reels into my page, because it just does. It does better on my page. You're going to do better on her page if you work that in and find a groove like that.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I want you to think of all the examples. She mentioned Amy Porterfield and Hobie. Hobie will never have a personal brand. Think Jenna Kutcher and Drew. Drew will never be interested in that. Once in a while, she pulls them in. Think Jasmine and JD. JD will never have personal. There's more examples where it works with just one of them doing it than there are examples where it works with both.
Got it. Thanks, guys.
On the topic of energy, I also have lived in masculine energy pretty much most of my life. And the last year or so, find myself in that soft girl era, but also finding myself swinging so far the other end of the pendulum in that intuitive sabbatical, into that intuitive incubation period, that I love it. And also, it's freaking me the fuck out because I know how to manufacture energy like nobody's business. I have the receipts and all that to show how to do that. And also, is this me operating on a fear and scarcity and a worthiness thing, or is this a divine intuitive appointment, especially when it's gone on for a long period of time? So my question to you is, how do you discern this is me manufacturing some energy to make shit happen because I'm scared, because relevance, because of all this? Or how do you discern, I don't give a shit how long this incubation period is, no matter how low the bank account goes or how forgotten I might be in this space? How do you discern that for yourself?
Oh, this is such a great question, and also such a tough one, because I do believe the only way for us to learn is to like learn it. Meaning, you know, I have moments where I'm like, oh, I just think maybe if I just relax more, I'll be more of a magnet. It's like, and sometimes that happens, and sometimes I'm like, you relaxed too long, or you didn't do enough about it. So I think it's like the back and forth of, if this feels really good right now and you're getting a lot of answers, I think it's when the well kind of dries up. Does that make sense? Like when you're not really getting a benefit of it, but if something truly is saying, sit still, and you know it, like you're so intuitive. I think there's a point where you're like, nope, I'm still supposed to sit still. Like nothing is, the next idea or the next thing or the thing I'm supposed to do with this idea isn't quite there yet. But then I also think sometimes we need to mix up how we're sitting with the idea or marinating with what could be next. So what I mean by that is, once in a while I've been like, oh, I don't know what to do about that thing. I'm just going to like let it sit there. Feels like I need to give this some more thought. And then once in a while I'll take it into a different container with totally different people who think very different. Or maybe it's like a weekend with some business ladies, and I ask like, hey, I want to set an intention about this, to either sit with this, like let this marinate more, or should I move? And by the end of the weekend, I'd really like to like, this is the thing I want to solve for this weekend. I think in you would be so good with this. I feel like with some people you could put together. Yeah. Maybe setting some more specific intentions around the thing, but letting it be okay for one of the options to continue as is. Yeah. I think that would be like helpful for you. I feel like that's helpful for me in that situation, where once I'm a verbal processor. What are you? Are you?
I am not.
Okay, you're not.
Yes.
Okay.
And so what you just said has been really key, especially the last few months, is I have such a crazy, beautiful, amazing circle of wise, divine, beautiful women and men. And I've just started recently, like even just saying, verbally processing, like I want to come out of my skin.
Do you hate it, or do you not do it, or do you avoid it because of something else?
I do it, and I don't love it. Okay. And I also see the benefit of it. I've always just kind of like, do everything internal, but I know I'm not meant to do it that way. And I have like the most powerful people around me. What am I doing? Am I sabotaging this? Am I, just like hiding? Like it's silly. Like I understand that from the neck up, from the neck down, my nervous system is like, do not open your mouth.
Okay, I love this. Nothing is going to go wrong if you open your mouth.
Correct.
It's going to be, so I get this. There was something I just brought to a group of women that I was like, I had said something I wanted to solve, and I went back to the room, and I was with Lindsay Schwartz, and I was like, I actually don't want to talk about it or solve it. And she's like, why? I'm like, because I don't feel like talking about it. I think I should just sit with it. No, it was because I was uncomfortable. I don't really want to know what the answer is yet. You know what I mean? And so I think that if you always give yourself the option in that group, because you've got such great people, you're like, here's the deal. I'm going to decide at the end. So all the input, and just let it all come in. I do think that you should start bringing it up, because it is your default to just keep it quiet. Because what's going to happen is, if all else fails, if you're like, all of their info sucked, like that's the best answer. Yeah. Because you're like, no, I didn't like any of that. I like what I'm doing right now. Yeah. So, and what else is going to happen is there's going to be a perspective that's probably going to rock your world.
Totally.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thanks, hon.
Hey, Lori, this question might be to both of you, and it's a little bit more around the funding and the financial, like who in launch, because you're startup, right, with Glossy. So, I mean, we can keep it contained to there. We don't have to talk about Frello. But really, the funding of a project, especially because you pivoted from one product to another, and you had some funding for that one, like you did a female founder for that. How do you figure out those marketing budgets or that LTV? Because that's really a projection. Who are the people that help you with those limits and those strategies? Is that you guys? Do you have a whole financial team that consults on those pieces? Yeah.
I put a CFO in immediately, because I'm terrible with numbers. Like it was like my first hire, like immediately from the second I started getting money. Because number one, my biggest anxiety was like keeping track of that and understanding where things were going. So I hired people who have been with other startups and in other companies and things like that, who understand the startup world and the startup cash and the startup money and all of that stuff. So that was huge for me. Like, there's no way I was going to just pick numbers out of thin air to do that. Because, I mean, essentially that's what they're doing, but they're picking them out of thin air from other people who have, they see what has worked before and they have years of understanding of like, hey, we don't know what this is going to do. So here's your first safe next step. Here's a safe play that you can do, and here's the risky play. So I like to work with people who can give me both. Sometimes when you're with a financial team who's too safe, you don't get to grow at the pace that you want. So I like to work with a team that gives me both. I'm like, what's the really safe play? What's the little bit of risky play? But what could that look like as well? So yes, like financial team.
So do they have like KPIs for your startup in terms of like?
They can.
Budget, all that?
100%.
Yes.
So my CFO for Fellow is Ron. We hired Ron because we let our previous one go because as extraordinarily talented as she was not familiar with startups. She was used to when there's already a team of 100 people and massive budgets. Here's how it operates. These are two different types of CFOs. We needed someone who came from the fintech world and understood startups. So swap them out so that we could get all of those KPIs, all of those do this, don't do that, all of that. You can't spend that right now. 100% of those decisions are suggested by them, and then the buck stops with you. You either accept their advice or you override it.
Hi. All right. I love what you said about all the years of prior business experience prepared you for the breakthroughs. I feel that like to my core in so many ways. So my question is, our network marketing company was that just kind of went imploded. We have a company that we've ran together for the past 6 years now. And so we're both really committed to our business, but also are exploring other options as well. And one of the things we keep circling back to is, how does it all fit together? How do we preserve what we have that we've created with Chic and keep that profitable while also building other things as well? And it kind of goes into what you and Natalie maybe are doing. Like, how do we show up and really set goals that are profitable, that we both are on the same page with, but how do we give space to our other businesses? Like, how do you compartmentalize or manage all of that energy to feel like you're showing up in all the places at the best level that you can?
Well, this was the question we went in with recently when we were trying to find somebody who could help us, because honestly, what happened is, like, we have these two powerhouse personal brands, like between her podcast and all the things and all of my stuff. And we were getting confused and lost in all of it. Like, where does your energy go? Where does my energy go? So we've had somebody who has come in. She's a fractional CMO who kind of also integrates a bit. And she had worked in another company of someone that we knew, but then also worked in Boss Babe a little bit. So we were like, could she potentially be the bridge, understanding, because she had already worked with personal brands and like how to kind of market a product through personal brands. And so we just hired her to help us. And so I'll tell you what she's helping with, because you don't necessarily need somebody at first. You might in a little bit, but she's helping us come up with the marketing plan for Glossy. And then what we're doing is breaking it down on like a micro level of, okay, how many, what does this look like in terms of the reels for Lori's brand, the reels for Natalie's brand, how many podcast ads, and what do the ads say for this particular thing? So we're creating a marketing calendar for that brand through our brands. So I think what you can do is, like, if you create your calendars in terms of how you're going to be marketing each thing, and then also talk internally about who's taking what. Like, Natalie and I divide and conquer. We don't work on the same thing ever anymore. Like, we're hardly on meetings together. When people are like, how is it going? I'm like, it looks like it's going great. When I look in Asana, looks like she's doing a great job. Like, so we truly, truly do divide and conquer. So the more that you guys can divide and conquer, and maybe you're only on the very few things together that you need to do, I think that would be huge for the both of you, is the faster you can just really trust each other in those two lanes, and also potentially get somebody who really understands both of what you're doing and knows how to like keep that separate, and you guys have your task lists. Does that help? Okay.
Do you delegate like certain days for your girlfriends and business stuff or glossy stuff, or does it all mesh together? You know, do you have set days for that?
I'm trying to get set days. Here's what I'm doing. I'm getting set creative days off. Like I'm trying to do like a Monday, Tuesday, kind of like creative reels marketing for Glossy. And then Thursdays are tending to be my podcast days. Brianne and I are trying to dial that in even more and make sure it's only Thursdays. And then the other days seem to be like a lot of meetings and admin, like tons of meetings on those other days. So that's been really helping because I know Monday I'm going to wake up and be like, that's been really big. If you guys could keep, I feel like for everyone in this room, if you can try to somehow keep Monday more open, it's like life-changing for your business.
A no meeting Monday will change your life. I had one last question for you. It's more of a surprise / question. You want to tell them or should I? This is going to be very anticlimactic the way I do it, so I'm going to ask you why. Lori is going to join me in running the mastermind from here on out for next year. Yep. Yeah. It'll now be Chris and Lori's mastermind, or Lori and Chris's mastermind. It'll no longer just be my mastermind. Why is that? Give them some backstory.
Well, we were doing other events together, and I told you guys dinner series. It was just like such a high production value for we just didn't feel like people were even understanding what it was. It was kind of it was a win that was also a fail because people thought it was just a very high priced dinner. And so, and so it was a lot more lift to even fill it, you guys. And we're like, okay, it's when we're in the room, it's accomplishing what we want. People are getting amazing connections. We're seeing transformation. But if they're not getting in the room, we're not going to do that. What's already working? It's a question, you guys, for yourselves. What's already working? Well, the mastermind's working. Like it works really well. He's so good at it. It's working so well that this was almost not a conversation because I didn't want to interfere with how beautiful this was working. And so simultaneously, I think especially going in with a product and as like my personal brand and the podcast has grown, I'm always getting asked, when will I start a mastermind? And I'm like, no time soon, because I would never want to do that lift by myself. If I was ever going to start one, it would have been with a girlfriend. And I even explored that. And then we had this moment where we sat down and we're like, so we would have competing masterminds. And it was like, okay, good point. And so that's how the whole conversation came about. And we almost didn't even talk about it because, like I said, it is just like, this works so beautiful. And I feel like he's got such a good thing. But we really talked about what that would look like and how that could be awesome and how I think it would just bring even more like powerhouse women into the group or couples or people in general. So that's how it happened.
Everybody was trying to convince her to do a Girlfriends of Business mastermind. And that's when we realized, if you did that, oh my God, we're just going to be competing against each other. And so expect a large influx of very talented, kick-ass women that may not have been attracted to something that they think I'm running, that they're going to be very attracted to something that Lori is now also running. So I'm really excited about this.
But I do want to say it's not like, I don't think you're going to feel, I think it will only feel like really, no offense, but like beneficial change, if there is any, because I feel like we've run so much together. I feel like you run this in such a beautiful way. So yeah, there might be some extra soul thrown somewhere, but that's about it.
So I'm really excited about it. I'm so grateful that I get to do life with you. I get to see you from the worst moments to the best moments, and you never stop supporting me, no matter which one of those moments you happen to be in, and that means the absolute world. So thank you for coming and doing this. I love you, and I can't wait to do the mastermind with you next year.
Thank you guys so much, and I'm so grateful that you do this. Thank you guys. This was so much fun.
Give a round of applause.
Thanks for listening. And if you loved this episode and know of someone else who is as successful as they are generous, please pass them on to me. It would mean the world to me if you help me get this cause and this message out to as many listeners as I can. So please, if you liked what you heard, it goes a long way if you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review and share this with your friends. I'll be forever grateful. And until the next episode, cheers to your success.